Welcome, everyone. This is Ken. I can see by YouTube analytics that at least one person watched our 9 Principles of Spiritual Recovery Introduction Part 1 video. Yay. If you haven't seen our first video yet, I would encourage you, no, I entreat you to find it and watch it. It's 40 minutes long and includes an introduction to the 9 Principles of Spiritual Recovery material. There will be a link to that video at the end of this video. It is a little longer than what I planned. Going forward, these should be between 10 and 15 minutes. We just want to make video presentations that help people learn ways to cope with their life stressors so they can be healthier and happier. I wrote this video on April 13th, 2022. I meant to have this second video posted a few days ago, but my voice hasn't cooperated and you can hear it. It's not great. We'll get through it. In life, we go out into the world, we learn a few things, we try them out, and then we kind of turn more inward and start to think a little bit, understand we might have something to teach other people, family members, friends, coworkers, other people we come in contact with socially, that sort of thing, groups we're involved with. To help them cope with life a little bit better, or to succeed in achieving a goal, or to realize some desire they have. As I've said in the first video, I'm no life expert. I don't consider myself a life coach. I'm not any smarter or wiser than anybody else. I'm not presenting this material as part of any clinical work, especially since I believe that this material came to me as inspiration. I'll talk more about that later. I'm mindful that my own spiritual journey of enlightenment includes both learning and teaching practical spirituality. We teach best what we've learned, and I want to learn things that I can use practically, not just in theory. It's April here in the Northeast. It's always been a challenging month for me, time of year for me. I tend to come out of the winter ready to shake things up after a 4-month hibernation. I've had 2 significant partnership relationships, one of 20 years, one of 10 years, that both ended in the month of April. Both resulted in me losing someone who had been my best friend for a time in life. Both relationships, trust eroded over time, and the communication decreased, and problems increased. Fairly common, I guess. Says no friendship can exist where there's no trust. I mentioned, I believe, that 9 Principles of Spiritual Recovery came to me in an inspiration, although I probably didn't think so at the time. I was driving to a church service for the Augusta Spiritualist Church on February 28th, 2010. In fact, I had just finished my studies to become a credentialed substance abuse counselor, and I was waiting to take my first exam. I'd also recently ended a romantic relationship of 4 years that was stressful but instructive. And at the time, I was looking forward to a new career and some new opportunities. And about halfway between my home and the church, I thought I heard a voice in my car, and not mine and not the radio. And I'm not usually clairaudient. My spiritual messages tend to come in clairvoyant fashion. Like short videos that go off in my head that are impressed on me. This audio message said to get a pen, which I did from the car console, and I fumbled around through some mail on the passenger seat to see if I could find an envelope that I could, get enough paper to write on. I didn't know what was coming, but the principles started to come, and I admitted I kept driving while I was transcribing them. And maybe after about 10 minutes, I had all 9 statements of principles, the different ideas. My message that day was validated by a medium at the Augusta Church, Bonnie Lee. She brought through someone who was known as a very good medium and one of her spirit guides, May Flagg. I don't remember ever meeting May. I'm not sure that I ever did. And then later on that afternoon, went to a service that night at the Portland Church, Portland Spiritualists. and Mike Carter was doing the message work, the greetings, and he brought through Reverend Margaret Tracy, who had served spiritualism in Maine in the U.S. Both of these ladies had, and I think I remember meeting Margaret probably right before she passed away, and that would have been about 16, 17 years ago now. In fact, I tried to remember, I could remember Margaret, and I tried to kind of research when she had passed away to make sure that I actually met her. And found her obituary and found out she's actually buried in the same cemetery as my maternal grandparents up in the boonies of western rural Maine, up in the mountains, which is quite a ways from here, actually. So, kind of a small world, spiritually speaking. Like I said, both of these women were known as skilled mediums by most of the folks involved in modern spiritualism. Their messages said they wanted to work with me on this project. And since then, I've worked with my spirit guidance to develop the names and descriptions of the principles, as well as support materials and the YouTube channel materials. It's been a lot of work. I titled this video, Physician Heal Thyself, Teacher Teach Thyself. I think it's helpful for anyone trying to teach someone else something, that the teacher has learned her or his own lessons in life before trying to impart any particular wisdom on any particular student learner. And essentially, I think we're all student learners and student teachers. One thing I have seen in spiritual circles over the years is folks getting into some sort of aspect of study, spiritual unfoldment, and before you know it, they're practitioners and they're out, charging people for work. And sometimes I wonder about that sort of thing. To that end, I believe that knowledge is wisdom understood. By that I mean that we really don't know anything unless we've come to understand some aspect of the truth of spirit, of wisdom, of spiritual law, and applied and tested that understanding in real life to see if what we think we understand actually makes sense and has practical uses in improving our quality of life. I believe learning is potentially a lifelong activity, depending on what you have to work with, especially later in life. Folks see their intellectual abilities diminish somewhat. And I think it's very unlikely that any of us will be totally healed at any time in our lives. Even people who've been, as Abraham Maslow termed it, self-actualized or self-realized, and became what they were meant to become. I think these folks were suffering from life stressors at the time of their deaths. People like Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King Jr., Joan of Arc, Buddha, Jesus, all in that group. I'm guessing they were all still learning right up until they passed the spirit. So it would seem beneficial for the student learner if the student teacher had done the work to heal from their life stresses, challenges, and losses. But to expect that work to be completed for anyone before they begin teaching is unrealistic and probably not all that desirable anyway. I'm committed to continuing to learn, to practicing what I preach, to preach what I practice. And I can tell you this particular student teacher's healing isn't yet completed, but I'll do my best to be my best. Over the past decade, I've continued to learn about relationships and my strengths and my issues related to them. I know I have more work to do and more to learn there, but don't we all? I've learned a lot about my physical health conditions over the year and how my choices have affected them negatively, probably. Some of that learning has been kind of challenging to accept, but getting as much kind of quality information as I can diagnostically makes it easier, at least in theory, to plan in for coping with the realities of my health issues and what I can expect. I've learned a lot about myself over the last year or two and who and what's important to me. what's valuable, what I think is worthwhile, and including my own desires and my own dreams. I've decided on a general direction for my life, and I know I'll adjust and adapt as I go along. My personal spiritual mission statement includes building independence, building healthy relationships with people who want them with me, and working to learn and practice and teach practical spirituality. And so I was working on this whole YouTube video process about a year ago, but things got sidetracked. And here, as Paul Harvey used to say, is the rest of the story, briefly. Last April 13th, I went to the emergency room at our local hospital for the second day in a row. I thought I was reacting to an antibiotic, but I was actually suffering from a blood infection and had sepsis sitting in. I had found a cut on my heel back around Christmas 2020. I tried to heal it myself, but it didn't heal up because I had uncontrolled diabetes. I ended up seeing a great orthopedic podiatrist who told me I would likely lose my leg below the knee. I was shocked by that and continued to take treatment as she suggested. But by April, it wasn't good. Things weren't going well. So I was admitted on April 13th and stayed about 2 weeks, receiving infusion for the infection and for the diabetes control. While I was in the hospital, I learned that I wouldn't be able to go back to my home. I had to find an alternative place to live and fairly quickly. Didn't know when I'd be discharged. So I did find a place with family, and my family members moved my things out before I was discharged. And since then, I've stayed with family who've helped me through a pretty tough stretch. Last summer, I experienced a medical setback, got depressed and angry, and progress that I had made kind of unraveled. Experienced a series of falls between September and December, the last being right before Christmas. And that one pretty well damaged the nerves in my spine and my hips and my legs. Left me largely immobile for the last few months. Just starting to be able to get outside again, get around with a little bit of confidence in my ability to step and walk and stay upright. So it's always a good thing. So between COVID-related work and job changes the last couple of years, relationship issues, my own medical problems, because of all those things, my career and finances have taken a hit. Being stressed and having limited options for immediate improvement has affected my mental health a little bit. And I noticed I seem to be a little more emotional lately. I may be a little down, but I'm not out, not yet. Anyway, overall, healing's been slow but steady. However, this crisis has provided me an opportunity to get these 9 principles of spiritual recovery videos started. I have a lot to do to recover from my own challenges and to get back to the extent possible the things in life I've lost over the last year or so. Some of it I won't ever get back, and I get that. And that goes into the planning process. Let's be realistic. And if I can do the things that I want to do, my stress levels should decrease and my contentment should increase. And we shall see. I used to tell my clients, you haven't hit rock bottom till your bottom hits the rocks. So basically, unless you're 6 feet under, you can probably do something to make your life easier, make your load lighter, which is what enlightenment's all about. The trick is figuring out what's wrong and what we can do to make it right, or to find out what's unhealthy and make it healthy. Sometimes we add to our life by subtracting, and to make things better, we actually take things away that don't serve us. In the process, we have to use our resources wisely, keep realistic expectations about how other people might be able to help us. And we have to start, though, with hope that things will get better, and faith in the things that we can't yet see, in spirit, in other people, and most importantly in ourselves. I've said before that I've received messages from spirit over the years. I woke up this morning with my left ear being plugged with kind of an echoey sound in it, or echo effect going on. Ended up getting a spiritual message that someone I've never met before, watching this video, who identifies as female or feminine. My left side is my feminine side. Um, this person would be short in stature, you know, 5 feet roughly, little more than 5 feet. Small to medium build, mid 30s to mid 40s, lighter colored hair. This person would never have been married, but might have been engaged. No children. They're professional, but not particularly upwardly mobile at the present. And that this person might benefit from researching what's called echo personality. I am familiar with this concept. I haven't come across it about 10 years or so ago. In my spiritual studies, I was looking into psychosynthesis and came across this. And I believe Patrick Hurst developed this back in the 1930s, named after Echo, a character in the myth of Narcissus. Now it's referred to as echoism. A couple of books, Rethinking Narcissism, and one called Echoism, by Craig Malkin, who's a PhD, uh, popular in mainstream psychology. Um, and I imagine those books fairly interesting. I've never read either of them. But anyway, I want you to please remember, I have no specific recipient in mind for the message I received. I'm not diagnosing anyone, claim no specific knowledge or expertise related to any particular diagnosis or topic. And again, I will occasionally pass along a message if I get one that seems relevant and pertinent to the materials being presented. Uh, Entertainment and enlightenment, folks. That's what we're here for. Well, I think that wraps up video number 2 for the 9 Principles of Spiritual Recovery and Introduction. If you like this video, please consider hitting the like button. Consider subscribing. I believe you need to have a YouTube account. If you do subscribe, please consider hitting the notification bell, and you'll be alerted when a new video comes out. I'm going to try to shoot for one about every week or so. And again, share this with anybody who you think might like it or get some use out of it. Thank you for watching, and look forward to the next video, and see you soon.